smoking on this cruise. If you have a mobile phone, please switch it to silent now. Before we depart, please listen carefully to the following short safety announcement. This boat is licensed to carry 249 passengers. We maintain constant contact with Thames level instructions. For your own safety, and in particular for any young children on board, please remain seated as much as possible.
We're not young.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome aboard your one-way river cruise service to Southend-on-Sea. Now, we will be at an end in 3.5 hours, so please do make yourself comfortable. You can purchase your return tickets at the exit pier. And if you believe that, you believe anything I say. Gotcha! Welcome aboard your 45-minute London Eye river cruise down to Tower Bridge and back. Happy Friday, keeping you on your toes. Hope you've had a lovely day so far. If you're wondering where this disappointed voice is coming from, turn around and give me a wave. Hello, my name is Jack, I'm the ginger guy who just scanned your tickets. I'm going to be your guide for this 45-minute cruise down to Tower Bridge and back. There are some rules here on the upper deck of the Silver Bonito. Please keep your bum in a seat at all times, please. This is for your own safety and the safety of others around you. We have our engineer, Al, he's in the wheelhouse there. He's steering the vessel from there. If you stand up, you might obstruct his view. We have a very busy river today. I'll let you stand up if you would like to go downstairs. There's covered seats down there. There's toilets at the back of the vessel. Ladies to the left, gents to the right. No smoking, no vaping. There's CCTV on board for your safety and mine as well. And also my colleague Rosie is down there. Should you require any additional information or assistance? Okay, boring stuff out of the way. Let us crack on with hopefully the reason why everyone is here today. It is, of course, the lastminute.com London Eye, the world's largest counter-levered observation wheel. 105 pods are situated on the outside of the wheel. 32 pods in total, as the number 32 represents each district and borough that makes up Greater London. Now, we were designed to celebrate the millennium, designed by David Marks and Julia Barfield, a husband and wife architectural duo. British Airways, they love their design so much, they bought it from them for about £75 million. Only meant to be here for 5 years, a temporary structure. We made all the money back in the first 2 years and proved so popular to everyone from all over the world. We applied for a permanent residency with Lambeth Council, and we have been here ever since. We've gone through quite a few changes over the years. We were the British Airways Millennium Wheel, the EDF Energy London Eye, the Coca-Cola London Eye, and then we celebrated our 20th birthday just before the lockdown in March last year, and we changed our sponsors too. lastminute.com London Eye. Ladies and gents, my uniform is now pink. Anyways, I love the pink. We'll talk some more about the experiences that one can do on the London Eye a little bit later on. Let's cross to the left now to this French chateau-esque style architecture you see here. These are the Whitehall mansions built in the area of Whitehall, where Whitehall Palace would have once stood. Home to the English monarchy from about loosely based, say 1530 until about 1640 or so. Henry VIII would have married Anne Boleyn at Whitehall Palace, and would have died there as well. Also Charles I would have had his head chopped off outside the only remaining part of Whitehall Palace, which is the banqueting hall, because unfortunately the rest of it burned down in 1698. They said it was so big that it spanned from where these bridges are here on the left, all the way up the banks to where we started and turned around, and as far back to Waterfall Stars Parade and St James's Park. So yeah, it was pretty big. Ahead of us we have two sets of bridges. These white ones are the newest footbridges that cross the British Thames. They are the Golden Jubilee footbridges, built in 2002 to celebrate the Queen's Golden Jubilee, and also to match them to the design of the London Eye as well. A much older bridge in the middle is the Hungerford Railway Bridge, designed by Isambard, Kingdom Brunel. Another rule that I forgot to mention, it's the most important one, is that you must actually wave to as many strangers as you can as we go on the bridges. They love it. Join me if you fancy it. Hopefully someone will. There you go. It's the only time you can wave at strangers in London and get 5 fingers back instead of 1. So please make it worth your while. Do this on the tube, you're going to get 1 finger back from not 5. There we go. There we go. But as we walk in the bridges, I'm going to show you what you might see Cleopatra's Needle. This was given to us as a gift from the Egyptian government. I repeat, a gift from the Egyptian government. Probably the only thing us Brits can actually steal, I believe. It's given to us for our help in the Battle of the Nile, 1798. Lord Admiral Nelson's victory over Napoleon was gifted to us in 1819 by Muhammad Ali. Not the boxer, the ruler of Sudan and Egypt at the time. And that needle right there is 3,000 years old. It's built from the 18th dynasty of Pharaoh King Tutmosis III. 1,000 years older than Cleopatra herself. Those sphinxes either side, they were a later addition. They were put there by a Victorian architect, put there to protect the needle, to ward off evil spirits. They're meant to be facing outwards. They were put in the wrong way, so they are now protecting the needle from the needle, and that is it. Not very clever whatsoever. Let's cross to the right now. This stretch of riverbank, about 1.5 miles from the London Eye, all the way to where we are cruising today. It's the South Bank, the hub of the arts and culture. We have Royal Festival Hall, world-class concert venue over there, home to the London Philharmonic Orchestra and the South Bank Centre. Hayward Gallery, British Film Institute. You can see lots of indie films at the cinema there as well. There's street performers, there's graffiti artists, there's beers, there's cocktails, there's restaurants. One of the world's first skate parks is over there. A very lively place, especially on the weekend. Probably the most artsy building there turns out to be the Royal National Theatre on the right here. It's a massive concrete building with the advertisement board on the front of it. In there are 3 theatres. You have the Littleton, the Dorfman, and the biggest of them all is the Olivier Theatre, named after the National's first artistic director and famous actor, Sir Laurence Olivier. Many shows in there, get a West End and a Broadway transfer. Probably the most famous one that was in there was Warhorse, had a very successful run, a UK tour, and then went on to be a blockbuster film directed by Steven Spielberg. It's also one of the cheapest places you can go and see from off West End, yet Central London Theatre. Many shows in there. They go for about 15 quid, which is an absolute bargain. If television though is more your cup of tea, continuing on the right here, this tower block, all the buildings in front of it behind these green trees, these were once home to the London studios owned by ITV, independent television, second biggest broadcasting station here in the UK, coming just a bit before the BBC. Now us Brits, we do need to thank ITV for gifting our nation with cultural and educational programmes like the Jeremy Kyle Show, The Only Way is Essex and the God Awful Love Island. So thank you very much for that, ITV. I'm joking. I mean, The Chase used to be recorded in QI as well. Some of our Saturday night entertainment programmes as well. If there's any fans of Breakfast Time TV, like this morning, used to be recorded over here as well. Coming into view at the end of the tree line is this white cube building, blacked out windows. That is where Holly Willoughby, Philip Schofield, Eamon and Marie, whoever used to sit in there and address our morning every morning. But Gabriel's Wharf is the area. Red brick building, white stripes, tower in the middle, the old Oxo meat production storehouse on the right here. Oxo famous for making our stock cubes, still very popular today. 1933, the Oxo company got into trouble for sticking that tower in the middle of the warehouse because the supposed branding and the company name and the Royal Highway has strict advertising laws. Inside that courtroom, Oxo had a very clever lawyer. They argued to an extremely stupid judge. The lawyer said it's not the brand on the tower, it's not the company name. These here are just 3 geometric shapes, which light up red in the company colours at night. And they got away with it. And still legally to this day, on the old Oxo warehouse, Oxo tower, that tower apparently does not say Oxo. I bet. Latest addition to the London skyline, another one on the right here. Glass tower block, slight curve on the side of it, opened just before Christmas 2018. You'll start to realise that in London we like to nickname landmarks, bridges and buildings. Some suggestions or names that people wanted to call it were going to be the vase, the baby bug, the boomerang, the cocktail shaker. Some people actually wanted to call it the Kim Kardashian. But this tower block was built because there's an apparent lack of affordable housing in the area of Blackfriars. Welcome to London. How the other half live, I honestly do like that. We are indeed in the area of Blackfriars though, better known for the 2.5 bridges. The first bridge here is the old Victorian pedestrian and road bridge. A much newer bridge ahead of us is Blackfriars Station Bridge. As we go in the middle, take a look to your left and to your right, these mysterious red hills. With that 4 on the right, 6 on the left, what could we do? So you have to use your imagination here, but on top of these pillars onto St Paul's Bridge, and on top of the St Paul's Bridge is the Chatham to Dover steam railway line, transporting goods from our city down to the south coast. In and around the London, steam trains in the East Wales are far too heavy, and the city to be dismantled. Only way when you get rid of those red pillars, so keep being embedded in the link, was actually blow them up using dynamite, TNT. Once these first explosions, they realised it was too much They two the river on either side. So what did they do instead? They painted the pillar red. They did a great deal of thing, which means they could never be removed, and they just take the label and paint it. This goes on, and I'll talk about that second time. But it was called the St. Paul's Bridge because to our left, of course, we have the world famous St. Paul's Cathedral, designed in 1710 by a very clever gentleman called Sir Christopher Wren, an architect, a scientist, a mathematician. This one here was built to replace one of the first down ports from the Great Fire of London in 1666. That is the fifth St. Paul's that the city of London has seen thus far. It's the second largest Roman cathedral in the world as well, just before St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City in Rome. And we have seen lots of famous occasions take place at St. Paul's over the years. The Queen has celebrated her 90th birthday over there. No doubt next year there'll be an event going on where she will celebrate her Platinum Jubilee. 70 years on the throne. That is mental. I recommend everyone come back for it because you all get a 4-day back holiday weekend and we can all party together. Let's have it. Lady Diana Spencer married Prince Charles over there. We have the funerals as well of Sir Winston Churchill and the late Baroness Maggie Thatcher. Let us cross to the right. Start inside the vessel to the area of Bankside. This is where William Shakespeare and his thespian friends used to hang out with Lord Chamberlain's men. So much so we have a detailed replica of his Globe Theatre on the right there, the white around the building with the thatch roof on top. It has been here since 1997. The idea to build it was pioneered by an American director called Sam Wanamaker. Came to London in search for the monument of the Bard, but didn't really find anything. So him and his design team took it upon themselves to rebuild the theatre using the same traditional methods as its original. There's no heating in the globe, no electricity, no roof. If you would like to treat you and your pals to a 4-hour Shakespearean comedy and it starts to rain, you shall get wet. You'll be getting the real Groundling experience. It's an amalgamation of the Rose Theatre, the Swan Theatre and the Wanamaker Playhouse. The original site of Shakespeare's first ever Globe Theatre would have been very, very near. It would have been where this building is today. On the right there you can see the black glass building with the letters FT on the front of it. That there is the old headquarters for the London Financial Times newspaper. Boring, I know. Cast your minds back to kind of end of the 1500s, turn of the 1600s. Over there was a street called Park Street. And Park Street was the location of Shakespeare's first ever Globe. It burned down in 1613 when an actor thought the clever idea to set up a cannon through the line towards Ford, and the theatre was made completely wood straw in Oxford. Now in Shakespeare's day, before you would go into the Globe, you and your friends are probably going to get very, very drunk with good old pints of English ale, and you'll probably go to this pub over here on the right, the Anchor Tavern. Formerly known as the Bankside Tavern, in Shakespeare's day, the ale house here was called the Castle on the Hope. So the very famous clientele over the years, Samuel Pepys, the famous diarist, was sat outside of this pub and he watched and wrote about the Great Fire of London happen on the north bank to our left. Charles Dickens would have had a pint of beer there. Jack from the London Eye River Cruise. Me, I have a pint of beer there every Friday night. A very famous pint of beer. A bordering fishing ship at the end of Haven in advanced spring. We were also given great wars by smugglers and also pirates. If you don't believe me, coming up on the right here is a pirate ship. Francis Drake's Golden Hind. Francis Drake was a smuggler. He was accidentally became the first Englishman to circumnavigate the seven seas, setting sail from Plymouth to South Coast of England in 1577. It was only 3 years later a very rich man, with today's money equivalent of about 25 million in stolen treasure that he had intercepted from Spanish and Portuguese galleons coming back from the Americas and the New World. On his return to London, England, did we arrest Francis Drake for his piracy crimes? No, we gave him a knighthood instead. It turns out if you steal treasure and give it to the Queen, you will become a privateer. Sir Francis Drake, we gave him £10,000 of that treasure as well, because that 25 million at the time went to take England's debt about 3 times over. So if there's any Spanish on board, which is yes, yes, obrigado. You're not getting paid. So crime really does pay. Just cruising underneath the world famous London Bridge, not the first London Bridge, not the last London Bridge. Let's talk about this bridge on our return, because as we come underneath it, to the left is quite an important monument to the city of London. In between these two concrete buildings you will see a tall stone column with a golden orb-like feature at the top of it, black balcony around it. That there is the monument to the Great Fire of London. Another one that's designed by Sir Christopher Wren, erected in 1672, and it was built with the purpose so Londoners could climb it and watch their city be rebuilt. because on the evening of the 2nd of September 1666, there was a small fire that broke out in a baker shop in Pudding Lane, and that fire went into burn for about 3 days straight. But it destroyed 8% of the old medieval city in this area to our left. It never came south of the river, it was always on the north bank. Over 100,000 people were made homeless, about 30,000 wooden businesses and properties were destroyed as well. How many people died in the Great Fire of London? Some records tell us only 6 people. Why? Because they only recorded the rich people. How dreadful is that? So believe it or not, the city of London is actually an old Roman city of about 2,000 years old. The Romans invaded in 1843 and they were settled in the city of Londinium, and they would have been sailing up and down the river Thamesis. Thamesis, an old Celtic word for dark or darkness. It was a walled and gated city, still has some of those gated places in the modern day city. That's Billingsgate Fish Market on the left there, all those people are outside. You have Bishopsgate in the city, Aldgate, East Cripplegate as well. We'll talk some more about the city when we get a better view of it in about 5 minutes time. Because we're going to cross back to the starboard side to talk about this much larger vessel than ours. You might be able to see her. She is in that Northern Atlantic camouflage. A light cruiser, the largest cruiser of the British fleet of World War II, is Her Majesty's ship Belfast. Built in Belfast, Northern Ireland, same docks as the ill-fated RMS Titanic behind the Wolf docks. Commissioned in 1936. Weighs 11,500 tonnes. Guns on the front there can fight freedom as well. It's now a floating all-access museum. The Imperial War Museum, they bought it at auction for a quid, £1. Saving you being converted to scrap metal. We have the offices of the Mayor of London on the right here, this popular building with the staircase in the middle is City Hall, where Mayor of London City Khan, who is in for his second term as London Mayor, will address the GLA, the Greater London Assembly, and make some important decisions regarding our city's future. It's usually about transport for London, red buses, air pollution and all that rubbish, so who cares about that? Tower Bridge, ladies and gentlemen. London's most famous bridge. Some sources state it's the most photographed bridge in the world. Anyone from the States in today? Sorry, San Francisco, but I thought you'd come in yours. Victorian sailors' tradition says, if you are to wave at someone on Tower Bridge and with a wave back, you will have 5 years of good luck bestowed upon you. Give your loved ones and embraces you underneath a light of health and happiness as well. I will tell you where I spend this one, but you need to get away. So, join me. If you fancy it. Hopefully something else. Anyone? No? Come on. Yay! Yes! That's Jimmy and Darren, we paid him £10 an hour to stand up now, now of course, congratulations, 5 years of luck, a very real tradition. So, Victoria, according to sailors, whether they were merchants or naval sailors, Tower Bridge is the penultimate bridge before heading downriver, about 3 hours to Southend-on-Sea. Those sailors will then go on to the North Sea, and so on. Their loved ones will be on the bridge, waiting for life suffering. And that tradition says if they were to get away back, they should be safely Stanley returning in about 5 years' time. So congratulations. Go and buy yourselves a lottery ticket. Euronews is 175 million tonight. You're all going to win it. Just remember who told you. We have just cruised into the old port of London. It seems pretty chill and calm and tranquil. This is one of the busiest ports in the world. Up until the 1930s, still one of the busiest in Europe as well. At one point, Tower, that's Canary Wharf, a big financial district here in modern day London, but it's in the Isle of Dogs. Just before the Isle of Dogs was once the West India Keys. These were big Victorian docks, bringing lots of exotic goods back to our city and country. Things like teas, herbs, coffees, spices, animal furs, animal products, oils, tobacco, sugar, alcohol, lots and lots of different things. Elephant ivory as well. Where do we store all of these goods? On the right here, in the spice wharves and the butler's wharf, warehouse at the river front. They would have the tax and the duty put on and then sold them elsewhere in the city or other places in the country. Butler's Wharf, now the most luxurious bit of real estate in the city of London. A one-bed flat in the Spice Wharves can vary here having your entire life. So on the right, you can see the rather ugly Tower Hotel. Behind that is the Gherkin. Then we have the Scalpel, the Cheese Grater. That tallest one there is Bishopsgate. You then have 20 Benchurch Street, aka the walkie-talkie building. Cross that river with Tower Bridge, City Hall and the Shard to your left. I think it's time for everybody to update their Instagram. When you upload these later, be sure to give us a mention at LERC, London River Cruise. Get some hashtags in there. Hashtag Tower Bridge. Hashtag Friday. Try this one, it gets loads of likes. Hashtag Jack is the best tour guide ever. Go on. Yeah. So, Tower Bridge is known as a vascular bridge, designed by a man called Horace Jones in 1894. And it's vascular in the sense because the vascular's in the middle there. They used to open and close to let taller ships through, sometimes like 30 plus times a week. Now I'd be lucky if Tower Bridge opens about 5 times a month. It's actually a very, very rare sighting indeed. Each vascule either side is 1,200 tonne of pure cast iron and steel with a bit of concrete and tarmac slacked on top. The stonework either side of the two towers is a neo-Gothic design, an upright neo-Gothic design, and it is really there just to kind of shield and hide the rather ugly steel and iron foundations of the two towers. You can visit Tower Bridge if you would like. Look underneath the crest of the walkway. You'll see the glass floor with the footprints of the Tower Bridge Experience Museum, exhibiting the bridge's history. It's great. Not the best place to wear a skirt, but you can see if Scotsmen are real Scotsmen. So the stonework is also on the bridge, kind of to match in to the design of this building on our right. Ladies and gents, my favourite, it is the Tower of London. It's one of London's oldest buildings. The oldest part is the central tower called the Bloody Tower, but you can't see it now because the bloody tree. It was built in 1078 by William the Conqueror as his royal residence, and then bits were added on throughout its almost 1,000-year history. It's been a royal observatory, a royal mint, a royal zoo. It's now London Zoo in Regent's Park. Saw some of the first elephants come through the city in London. They didn't know how to feed exotic animals like elephants. What did they feed them? A gallon of wine every day. They lived a very short and happy life. Obviously most famous though for being imprisoned without the torture and execution. On the right, on the banks, you can see entry to the Traitors' Gate. When the tide of the Thames is out, that is where traitors to our crown will be sailed inside, and then imprisoned, tortured, and then probably have their heads chopped off. Traitors' Gate is one of London's first ever one-way systems. Why? Because if you were going in there, you definitely weren't coming back out again. Tower Hill on the right here. Now this is where you would take your family in medieval London to go and watch Saturday Night Live public execution. 117 people were executed outside on Tower Hill in front of 20,000 screaming people. Public humiliation at its finest. You would see someone be beheaded by the sword or the axe, hung by the neck. If you were really, really lucky, you'll get to see someone hung, drawn and quartered. It's where they hang someone, rip up their organs via their tummy, and then they split them into 4. Yes, that is how we used to do it. If you get tired of riding this, please visit the Tower of London. It's where the crown jewels are in there, protected by the yeomen of the guard, the beefeaters. Get in there, ask them nicely, and they will give you a tour for free. For a protesting for once. On the left now, the tallest building in the United Kingdom. We have the Shard, ladies and gentlemen. For Renzo Piano, the Italian designer wanted to call it the Shard of Glass. Opened in 2012, it is 309.6 metres tall. That's 1,016 feet high, and it is as tall as it can possibly be. Aviation laws within the UK did not allow the design team to build it any taller because of spike glass or spike glass from aircraft. They also came on this high wind in the city. The Shard could wobble a few millimetres side to side. It's pretty sketchy stuff. Inside the Shard there are offices for high-end clients and businesses. 7-star hotel in the middle, the Shangri-La Hotel. 10 luxury penthouse apartments at the top. One of the last year was on the market for £43 million. If anybody on the cruise this afternoon is thinking of buying one of those flats, I'm just going to let you know that I have just finished my masters. I'm single, and we should be best friends. I have a friend that works in the concierge department of the Shangri-La Hotel. The rumour going around their team last year as the person who was rejected one of the last flats to the top of the Shard was Kanye West. Thank God for that. Back to London Bridge. Not the first London Bridge, probably not going to be the last London Bridge. In London's almost 2,000-year-long existence, there's always one thing that happens in London Bridge. What is it? It always falls down. Hence why I taught to sing at a very young age. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down like that. This is Elizabethan London Bridge, finished in 1968 to replace Victorian London Bridge that was sinking into the River Thames. Victorian London Bridge then saved by an American gentleman called Robert P. McCulloch. He paid £1 million for it. Loved it so much, it's now over Lake Havasu in Arizona in the States. I think he was led to believe it was buying Tower Bridge. On our left now, a small bluey-grey building with some white windows, Winchester Walls. 1151 until 1780. It was home to the medieval prison, the tax dodger prison. If you were not paying your taxes, you'd be thrown in the drink and then tortured out of your money. Quite ironic now, the bottom floor of it. So ignore Cannon Street Station Bridge, this one here, it's ugly. That's all I have to say. Nothing more than that. We'll go from one ugly one to a rather magnificent one. It's Southern Bridge, it's done on the most beautiful on the River Thames. It's 1920 Art Deco style. Featured as London Bridge in the original Mary Poppins film, it's that one. But on the river though, it had a sad nickname for Southern Bridge. It's called the Lonely Bridge. Can I get an R please? That's because it has some of the lowest footfall recorded on any bridge in London, least amount of traffic, no major landmarks either side. See this guy up here, he has no reason to be up there whatsoever, he is lost and Google Maps just isn't working for him. I've lived in London pretty much on my whole life and still never set foot on that bridge. Called Southern Bridge though, because to the left, south of the river, is the London borough of Southwark in Shakespeare's day, a den of sin and debauchery. Anything south of the river back then considered to be in the English county of Surrey, in comparison to the north bank on the right, the City of London. The City of London back then ruled by a very religious group called the Puritans. All they wanted you to do was to pray, work and pray. They tore down theatres, they cancelled Christmas, they made drinking in pubs illegal. So if you and your mates want to have a naughty night out on the town, you get in your waterman's boat, cross over the bankside in Southwark, and get up to lots of mischief, like drinking in your pubs, your taverns, your theatres, your brothels, trying out illegal gambling, for boxing, wrestling, dog fighting, cockfighting, bear baiting, amongst another crap. If you are in town for a couple of days, please visit the area of Bankside. You'll be walking in the footsteps of probably the greatest playwright that has ever lived, Mr. William Shakespeare. Just cruising underneath Millennium Bridge here. Opened on the 10th of June 2000. Was then shut again 2 days later. That is because during its somewhat 2-day opening ceremony, there was like 20,000 people would have crossed this bridge, and as they did, started to sway and wobble about 7 inches left to right from the bridge. Now Millennium Bridge was designed by a northern architect. His name was Lord Norman Foster. When he was questioned about his design, especially that wobble, he went to live TV, said to our nation, that wobble has got nothing to do with my designs, it's the way that you Londoners walk. Marching is the term he says, very funny. It cost more to fix than it did to build. It took longer to fix than it did to build. They had to get NASA to come in and help us fix all the dampers underneath to stop the wobble. So, Blackfriars Station Bridge, only station you get on either side of the Thames, both platforms running across the water. These slats on top are solar panels. It makes it the largest solar panel roof bridge in the whole of Europe, which makes me laugh because the largest solar panel roof bridge in the whole of Europe is in London, England. Good one. It rains all the time. Worst idea that was. Come on. Connecting one guys, all the rain works that are going on right here, all the dredging of the Thames. We haven't found anything interesting, there's no oil, there's no gold in the river. What we are actually doing is we are updating London's old Victorian sewage system that has been here since around the 1860s kind of mark. Now, the City of London, 1858, the summer of 1858, experienced an event called the Great Stink. This is where all of the industrial waste and all the sewage from the city was flowing into the banks of the River Thames, and the summer months of July and August that year, the sun's heat was so hot, it cooked up all this nasty waste and created a really horrible smell throughout our city. People were suffering from typhoid and cholera. It got that bad, the government down at Westminster, which we'll talk about in a bit, had to stop operating. That wasn't still. A Victorian civil engineer stepped in. His name was Sir Joseph Bazalgette, and he implemented his plan of the super sewer and the embankment. So the Thames used to be a lot wider than it is today. Where you see all this traffic on the right, where all the lamp posts are and stuff, that is the embankment, which goes from Blackfriars here all the way up to Westminster where we started, and beneath that is the super sewer, which is now blocked up with baby wipes and other stuff. I don't know. I'll let your imagination run wild. So I'm going to point these out a little bit earlier, so they can be quite hard to see. But either side of the road, on the pavement to our right here, you will start to see a pair of silver and red dragons on their hind legs. There's one closest to us here, and then the other one on the other side where that kind of white van is just leaving. Now these here are not for decoration. They mark the boundary lines between the two cities that London is made up of. We have a city within a city. We are just about to leave the 1 square mile city of London, the city of commerce and money. We're just about to cross back into the city of Westminster, the city of royalty. About 700 square mile of Greater London beginning. Now these different cities have different police forces, different mayors, different legislations and rules as well. There is even a tradition that dates back to the Magna Carta, written in 1215, that says that commerce and royalty technically shouldn't really be allowed to mix. This tradition dictates that if Queen Elizabeth II, or the future monarch of England, would like to cross from the royal city into the city of London behind us over there, they must actually ask permission from the Lord Mayor of London. It happens once a year for us all to see in an event called the Lord Mayor Show. It's where there's a kind of big ceremonial passing from one city to the other. It's on the TV. After that we have a small carnival, and after that a bit of a party as well. How cool is that? If you see silver and red dragons throughout your stay, also look to the designs of the street names. They will also change from one city to the other as well. So keep your eyes peeled. Somerset House on the right here, this massive Georgian building, will be the first ever public record offices for England and Wales, recording marriages, deaths and births. Inside there now is a massive kind of exhibition space. The Courtauld Institute of Art is in there. Works by Van Gogh, Renoir and Monet are in there. They always have free pop-up exhibitions, which are great. I went to one a couple of weeks ago. It was the history of Great British skateboarding. It was really, really good. They do free tours every Thursday and Saturday afternoons. There's always got pop-up art installations, photography exhibitions and whatnot. There's cafes in there, there's shops, Michelin star restaurant in there called Spring, which is rather lovely as well. Just walk through the courtyard, it's full of Georgian architecture and very grand, it's very decked. It's very much so. So another grand and flash place to stay. One of London's finest we have to offer is London's Savoy Hotel on the right here, the green tiled roof with the flag mast in the middle. Opened in 1889 by Mr. Richard Doyley Hart with his Savoy Theatre in the basement, where you would have seen some of Gilbert Sullivan's first operas. It was one of London's first hotels to have ensuite bathrooms and also to have working lifts and elevators as well. Anyone who is vaguely famous or wealthy would have stayed there over the years. We're talking people like Charlie Chaplin, Marilyn Monroe, to Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift. If you would like to stay in the Savoy, one of their finest rooms is the Royal Suite. For a one-night stay, bearing in mind that you need a 3-night minimum stay policy, if you go full whack, it can cost you anything up to £17,000 for one night. You get 24-hour butler service, chauffeur service, your own personal stylist, hairdresser, masseuse. This one made me laugh. You can also get access to your own private therapist, which I think is pretty apt if you spend £17,000 for one night. Hungerford Railway Bridge in the middle, I kind of forgot to mention that on our way out. Yes, Charing Cross Station on the right here. We have the west of our city on the right there. Trafalgar Square, which is like 600 metres that way, the West End, the Strand, Covent Garden, which is behind us, Piccadilly Circus, Soho. West is best, ladies and gents. That is all I have to say. West is best. So I'm going to point out the green lions with the hoops in their mouths. You can see one of them there at one point on the banks. As we go up and down the Thames, you can see the green lions there. They are the old mooring points of all the vessels that were once here on the Royal Highway. They're also an old Victorian flood defence system. We're on a tidal river. The tide of the Thames comes in and out twice, and the depth of the river changes 8 to 10 metres as well. There's an old Victorian rhyme, or a poem, shall we say, that goes with these green lions to make sure the Thames does not overflow, and it goes a little something like this. If the green lions are drinking, then London will be sinking. But if the green lions are ducked, London is completely flooded. In the 1860s, so built fairly recently as palaces go. Now this palace you see here today was built to replace the one that burnt down before it in 1834. That palace of 1834, it actually burnt down. That is because some of our MPs, I mean, I know we're a bit far away, so let's try and give them a wave if you want. Other hand gestures are appropriate. Keep it PC, family cruise. They tried to rig an election in 1834. Things got a bit out of hand when burning wooden tally sticks, and they burnt the whole palace down to the ground. Many a Londoner have come up to see what the commotion is all about, not to help the people inside. They've decided to line the banks of the Thames and chant in unison, "Burn Parliament, burn." 3 very prestigious towers on the Houses of Parliament. The tallest one with the flag mast is the Victoria Tower, the Archive Tower. It's where we store the ballot papers after every general election. By law, they have to be stored there for a year, then they're transferred to the Central Tower, burnt and destroyed. But of course, the most iconic tower of the 3, it is not Big Ben, ladies and gents. It is the Elizabeth Tower that was named in 2012 to commemorate our current reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II's Diamond Jubilee. Big Ben is the 13.8-ton bell that resides inside that tower, and it's thought to be nicknamed after the first commissioner of the works on the clock tower of 1860, a man called Sir Benjamin Hall. Sir Benjamin Hall, he was a Welsh MP. He was a rather tall gentleman, a rather large and quite fat gentleman, and also not very nice to his workers. So, the story goes that after years of abuse, the workers on the clock tower, they nicknamed the bell over the size of Sir Benjamin Hall's tummy. I just say one thing, thank God his name wasn't Richard. Hope you are going on to the Eye. I mean, weather is a bit grim, but the views are still absolutely amazing. Why not come back in the near future and try some weird and wonderful experiences that one can do on the London Eye? You can do gin tasting, you can do a chocolate tasting. We've got a pub on the London Eye at the moment. We even had a group of people a couple of years ago, they came on to do something called yoga, which is yoga with dogs. Why? I don't know. People have too much time and too much money. I'll leave you with this, and then I'll let you go on your merry way. But I still find it hilarious, and I really hope you guys will as well. The London Eye is very popular on Valentine's Day. We do a thing called a Cupid's Catch-all. It's where you and your loved one, just you two, you go onto the London Eye and you have a bottle of champagne served by one of our lovely hosts. The gentleman did it last year on Valentine's Day, 6 PM, prime slot for the Cupid's Catch-all. Got to the highest point of the London Eye. Thought it'd be a clever idea to get down on one knee, say to his lovely, will you marry me? And she said no! Oh, she said no. It takes half an hour to go round. What would you talk about? Yikes, dear me. And no, it wasn't me. Let's get that. This is now the time, ladies and gents, please look around your feet and your seats for your personal belongings, iPhones, keys, wallets, children. Leave them on the main. Please, thank you. Let's see how we are getting on. Leave before we're back in something called time, before we tie up. Yeah, just another minute or so. Oh, just once I remember, if you have had a good time, please leave us a little review. We are on TripAdvisor. We're doing a competition at the moment for all the boat team. Whoever gets the most reviews on TripAdvisor throughout the month of October gets a paid day off work. So please, help a brother out. If you've had a good time, mention. I will see how we're getting on. What to see, speak to me, and I can float you away. Happy Friday and goodbye.